Hello again. So you might notice the carbs are missing. That's because they're long overdue a bit of attention. But while I'm here, I thought I would show you something that I didn't particularly believe in a long time ago, but now I'm thoroughly on the converted side, is these cheapy £5 cable lubricators. So I'd always wondered how it is that the pressure in a spray can coupled with this could push any kind of lubricant all the way up these cables to the other end. But even on the Pan-European, and I've just done these throttle cables where they go tightly up here and all the way around, with this and a decent squirt of lubricant, as you can see up there, you can get it dripping out the other end of the cable. So I thought I'd bring you along while I did the choke cable. It's not technically the choke, it's the enrichener, but we're going to lubricate it anyway. So these are about a £5 off Amazon, eBay, anywhere else. They've got a closed end, they've got an open end, and they've got a bunch of ports, most of which will have plugs in them. I'm using the standard one on this end that's open. You just want to push the tube of any tubey spray bottle. Please don't use WD-40. It will just dissolve the lubricant that's in the cable and help it to weep out, and then it will set rock hard again and your problem will come straight back. I use white lithium grease. You can buy dedicated cable lube. The choice is yours, but just not WD-40, please. So you take your cable, you find whichever end of it is most easily accessible. In that case it's this end, because it means I don't have to take the handlebar apart. And you pop the big end in the big side and you pull the cable through the closed end in the slit. You want to push this in far enough that it's not got a load of dead space, but not so far that it interferes with the tube, and then you can just wind down. These, on this model, it will stop before it lets you crush the rubber too much. The orangey bit hits the blue bit and it stops. You might need to keep your cable in check because it'll try and run away while you're doing this, and eventually you'll be left with something that looks a bit like this. Now when you squeeze this, some will go everywhere else, some will go up the cable, so I usually grab it with a microfiber. Give it a good couple of squeezes. I think we're leaking a fair amount, so I'm just going to wind down this a bit more. And you can see there's now cable lube absolutely everywhere, but hopefully also up inside the cable. And if we start to move this a little bit, we can give it a few more pumps. You can actually see, I don't know if you did, some of the propellant shot out of the handlebar grip, which means we are pushing stuff all the way up. And I can actually hear bubbling up at the other side, which means we've probably filled the grip up with lube as well. Whether that's a good thing or a bad thing is up to you. I don't intend on taking it apart anytime soon, and as long as the buttons keep working, that's good enough for me. Pop this off, give it a clean, and you can see on this exposed end of the cable the lube has been shooting off up it, and just anecdotally, this enrichener lever feels a lot smoother than it did before. I've done the same on the throttle cable, and as you can see, I'm just working those at this end. That is absolutely loose as it can be, and that should cure the slightly sticky throttle problem that I was having before. Which means there's no more putting it off. Once I've tidied up some of this white lithium grease from everywhere, you can see I put plenty in the valley as well on all the linkages. It's probably time to start looking properly at the carburetors. Alright, so this are the carbs that were on the bike last time you saw it, but to be clear, not the carbs that came on the bike. Since they've just come off the bike, the first thing I'm going to do, since we're sat here next to an electric heater, is drain the bowls so that they don't go dropping petrol all over me. I would have done this while these are on the bike, but the drain spigots got snapped off of these new carbs in the post, which is very unfortunate. So one of the things we're going to be doing today is switching out the bowls on these new carbs for the bowls on the old ones, and hoping we don't tear up any gaskets. The reason I bought new carbs, A, they came up for decent price on eBay, I think 60 something quid. They're in much better condition. They allegedly came off a bike that was running, judging by the way that the bike runs with these carbs on it. Not a bike that was running particularly well, but not awfully either, so it suited our purpose for the time being. But yeah, the reason I bought new ones, so much of the old ones was trashed. You can't see right now, but down in between the carbs, all of the brass bushings were locked up. There were no tie wires left on anything. Someone had evidently been through them before and lost all of the C-clips off the ends of things like the enricheners. So by the time that every time I put this back down, it starts leaking petrol everywhere again. Yeah, so by the time that I'd gone through and bought new ones of all of those things I've just mentioned, plus anything else that I hadn't thought about, would have been well over that 60 quid anyway. And when you're rebuilding carbs, there's absolutely nothing better than having a whole extra set of carbs. Not to mention there are a load of other things missing off of these actually that I've just remembered, including all the, you can't see them here, but all the clips and tie wraps and extra hoses that go around the top. They've been properly messed about with. There you go on, you're going to pretend that's all that's in there, aren't you? And then you're going to drop the rest of it on me in a moment. I don't know for sure, but I would wager a guess that these big ones are the main jets, and the smaller ones next to them are going to be the pilots. Well, I might be pulling out an emulsion tube, who knows. Yep. And I can already see there's some crud in there, so yeah, it looks like there's just a tide line on a lot of these things, where probably where it was left with fuel in it for a while after it came off the road. Okay, you've probably just seen some footage of me working on the carbs. The phone ran out of storage, so there isn't footage of me putting them back together, but all I did was clean the main and pilot jets. And there might have been a bit of footage of unsticking one of the enrichers. A few days has passed now, and I put a lot of the plastics back on the bike so that I can finish clearing up the garage. There's still a few nuts and bolts missing, but it looks a lot more like a Pan-European. Anyway, I have started this once previously, but it's stone cold now, and so I won't run it for too long, so the garage door is only open a crack, but as you can hear, it starts, it runs, it sounds quite smooth. Ignore the sound of the blow from the exhaust. The clamps on the silencers are not done up, because they need some new band clamps around them. But that sounds an awful lot better, and this time I'm actually proud of the job I did on the carbs. I also might have mentioned in a previous video, they're not the same carbs. I think I mentioned it earlier in this one. There's some that I got off of eBay off of a running bike, because the Swamp Thing carbs that came out of this just needed a few too many pieces. But I did swap the bowls off of the original, because the new ones, spigots on the bottom of the bowls for the drain pipes got broken, so now it has all 4 of the spigots for the drain pipes again, and those are reconnected. So I think now that I've had a chance to go through the plastics and put the majority of them back on the bike, a few not so much, I'm going to do a couple of things. The first is going to be repair some of the broken pieces, and I think we'll start with up at the front. This shiny black piece here has a crack that you can see just there, so we'll whip this back off and have a go with a plastic welding gun. Okay, I've not had the pleasure of using one of these before, but I saw one in a Big Clive video and decided the best thing I could do was buy 20 quid's worth of cheap mains powered nonsense imported from the Far East. I understand the basic concept. Certainly got plenty of the staples that go with it, but essentially it's a gun, you pop a staple in the end. I presume this thing has a transformer in it that transforms mains voltage down to some high amperage low voltage. It's going to heat those clips up to be smoking hot, and then we can press them into some plastic. I'm going to plug it in and pull the trigger, and it hasn't blown the fuses. The fuse board is just above me, so if it does, we'll only be in the dark for a second. I'm going to put the case out the way and just check through to see what the best kind of staples, I guess, are going to be for this job. Yep, there we go. So I can get just one. It's kind of a squiggly staple. I'm going to heat it up and press it down into the plastic. You'll see, hopefully. So pop that there. I can feel it humming. It's sunk in. Don't know if you can see that. I can smell hot plastic. I have deliberately not gone particularly deep because there's not much of this piece of plastic, but as you can see, it's melted in. We'll pop a couple more in like that. Okay. When the little light comes on, it means I'm heating. Got in, I've let go. I'm staying still for a second so that it doesn't immediately pull back out of the hot plastic. And yep, you can see I've actually managed to open the crack up a bit there, which is not ideal, but the whole thing is a lot more solid now. And I haven't come through on the other side. The crack's opened up a little bit, but I can live with that. I'm more interested in it not getting worse. I think we'll use Garfield this time to stop those bits going flying. Yeah, maybe a blob of epoxy over that would help. That's quite sharp, ouch. But certainly that's a lot better than it was. Okay, this is the next bit that's busted. There's this peg which pushes into a rubber on the bike. It has previously been epoxied back on, not particularly well. And the epoxy itself seems to have aged and fallen apart. So my hope is that we can stake this back in with one of these or two of these, and then we can put some more of our own epoxy on. Okay, I popped you on the other side. Right, got some 20-minute epoxy. I don't know how well you can see this, but just looking at the panel on the other side, this one looks like it's about to go as well, so I think we'll repeat the same treatment. Since the entire intention of this project seems to be polishing a turd, I feel like there's no better time than now, while some of the panels are still off, to, well, polish a turd. Just been playing around with a polisher, so I've polished up this side panel and treated it, and as you can see, it's gorgeous. And here's one I haven't done yet. You can see how much difference it makes. So I think it's about time we took a look at this ABS, and I've got the bike back up in the air because something changed. I had it down, I had it running, I pushed it around, and the ABS lights have changed from their normal sequence to just always flashing like this, and nothing I do with the buttons down here really changes it. Stops the TCS light, but nothing more than that. And the reason for that is that we go back here under the Tupperware, this fuse here, number 10, the main ABS fuse, has blown. If we pull that out and put a new one in, the ABS lights go back to how they were behaving before. So why did that blow? Well, the answer was I was trying to do the rotation check. So if you don't know, on these bikes you can hold down the ABS fault button when you turn on the ignition. As soon as the ABS light goes out, you let go, it flashes fault codes. If you then press the button again, it clears the codes, but it stays in a diagnostic mode, where if you rotate the front wheel and the rear wheel, it will flash the ABS light to show you that it can detect the rotation. And while I was doing that back here, I was getting intermittent results. So I just started wobbling this cable a little bit, and I heard the ABS what do you call it? The ABS motors click and prime again, and the dash light flickered. I did it again. I heard a click, a crack, and a pop, and that fuse went. I replaced it, repeated the same sequence, and every time I jiggle this wire down here, which is the one that normally goes all the way forward to this connector. It blew the fuse, so I'm guessing we're shorting out, and I'm told that under this rubber cover it's super common for the wires to get grotty, short together, snap, break, etc. So since the ABS sensor on the front and the back are the same apart from the cable, the only kind of sensor I could get hold of was a front, because I didn't get an email response from this chap called Happy Bikes who makes replacements out of new sensors. So I grabbed a front one which I will wire in. But that means we need to get this one out. And one of the things that, if you do any reading about pan-European ABS, you will be very, very familiar with is the fact that this ABS horn, as it's called, snaps off really easily. Which sucks because this sensor is absolutely welded into the hole that it drops into. So I've seen a lot of different mechanisms for doing this. I've seen people drill them out. I've seen people sort of chip and break them out, but that still comes with the risk of busting this horn. So what I'm going to go for instead is melting all the plastic in the ABS sensor, pulling all the guts out, and then I can get in with a screwdriver and work the outer can that it lives in out. I'm fairly certain that the fault in this is going to be quite close to the top of the sensor anyway, so I don't think it's worth trying to save it, because replacing this is a lot cheaper than replacing this final drive unit with the ABS horn on it, or whatever other part holds that. So bear with me and we'll get medieval. So before I get the fire out, I thought we'd go with electric, because I don't want to crack it either, and I at least want it to be warmed up first. So let's see how this goes. We'll never talk about the hack job that I've done there. I may have put some footage in previous. I was probably fast forwarded through it. Suffice to say, between my hack jobbery and the amount this was scarred up, the sheer amount of corrosion that's been pouring out of this is ridiculous. So, you know, honestly, it's not in the best state, but it could be a lot worse. Either way, the horn is still attached. We can get a new sensor in here, and if anything, there are now pockets to put some anti-seize in to stop the new one from seizing in there. Apparently one of the reasons that these get so stuck, I must be bleeding somewhere, because otherwise there's a lot of brown coming from somewhere that I haven't seen. Yeah, the reason these get stuck is they're supposed to be popped out every time the rear wheel's taken off at service and stuff like that, but they never are. So this one's probably been in there since 1997. And yes, don't worry, I'm going to go around all the underside of this, including down here, and get all the dust and grinding nonsense out. I probably should have covered it before I started, but we'll come back to this. I'll probably tidy up a little bit more the grindstone, and we'll come back to it when the new sensor arrives. So I got hold of a front ABS sensor because it's all I could find, and I've just cut down both sides of it and then stuck a screwdriver in and twisted, and that's broken the sensor out of the housing. As you can probably see, it was corroded in there pretty well, more than likely same as the one that was originally on there. So I'm just going to clean this up. We'll stick it in the back of the bike, and then we'll join the wires together. Okay, so that's the front sensor now installed in the back, and the cable's routed along all the clips behind this, and then the join pops out thankfully just under this side panel, and I've joined it with some of those 3-in-1 splices and absolutely covered it in decent quality 3M Scotch electrical tape to try and keep it rigid. It's plugged in, the bike is on, And if I grab the rear wheel and spin it, you can see the ABS light flashes in response. That's the spin test. That means that we're getting a valid signal from this sensor, at least for now. So, as with the ABS on these bikes, once you fix one problem, it's quite common for another one to pop straight back up. There's almost like an order of faults. So the rear wheel sensor is the thing it gets angriest about, and now we'll find out if the front wheel sensor is working when we get it rolling over 6 miles an hour. But it is past 10 at night. I can't be bothered to move all the other bikes out of the way, and I don't really want to freeze, so we'll do that another day. If I haven't already, I'll call it a part there, I think. Thanks for watching.